So we're now Biur Inyanu. This is what chapter are we? 3, right? This is the third
it's very
chapter.
hard to work it out with this.
And let me see. 1,
I think so.
2, 3, 4. In chapter 4. Okay. We said that Abraham was the first one to bring down the Chafetz Chesed, the Sechel HaNe'elam. And how did he do it?
Complained to Kodesh Baruch Hu, since Avraham Avinu was created, I got nothing to do.
Okay. So that's how he brought it down. So he said that to bring it down, it's not enough for a person to sit and think. How am I going to tap into my higher mind, into my concealed mind?
That's the way
you have to do something. But he says this type of doing is called malacha. That's the main thing. But this type of doing is exactly the same type. It's analogous to what Hashem did when He created the world. So Hashem also wanted to reveal something. What did He want to reveal into the world? Hey, name Havaya. So He took the 6 midos, and in the context of creation, they're called the 6 days of creation. And through them, He revealed Himself.
Why not Shiva Midot?
Oh, why is it Malchus? Malchus is also something. But Malchus, in the context of creation, was to return, because it's not finished. It was to return into his mind. It's like he reflected everything, he projected it, and on the 7th day, he stopped doing that. And he went back into the source of his mind. So, in our context, it means that on the 7th day, we rest from fulfilling ourselves, from doing what we do during the rest of the week. But we don't do something with Malchus. Okay? The Malchus is not complete. It's like almost, it's almost saying that during the 6 days of the week, we're trying to build a kingdom. But on the 7th day, you don't build the kingdom, but rather you refrain from it, meaning saying that you go back into the plan, you go back into the source. So there's no 7th midah in the sense of that you do something with it. That's what it means, that the 7th midah, the malchus, is like some kind of receptacle. It's a kli to receive everything that you did, but it's not something you do with. Okay? Okay.
So now we got 6 midas, and all these Jewish people were all busy running around doing all sorts of interesting things. Okay. So when they're going, all the Moroccan, or Kodesh Baruch Hu sees that these Jews refraining from eating non-kosher, he's making kitchen kosher, he's making bedroom kosher, whatever it is. So that's making a deer of a tachton. That's Kiddush Hashem if you want. But when it comes to Shabbos, and a Jew doesn't do anything, that's the biggest Kiddush Hashem. That's the biggest bringing a Kodesh Baruch Hu into this world. So the guy would say, why are these Jews doing nothing? Because it's Shabbos. They're not working? No. I can't do business with them? No. So that's an even bigger bringing Hashem down into the world. So why say we're doing nothing?
Because we're not continuing to fulfill new parts of the plan. We're leaving it the way it was. That's Kol Melachto Asuya. That's what he explained before. The Kol Melachto Asuya is the feeling that I'm going back to the source. All my toil is finished. So I'm going back to the source. What's my toil? My toil is to bring down Hashem into the world. So I go back to the source and I enjoy Az Titanag Al Havaya. I'm above Havaya even. I enjoy the very fact that there's Hashem. I don't continue to try to project Him into the world. I don't continue to bring it down into the world. Okay? Rather, I go to connect back to the source. It's like going back to fuel, to energize. But I'm not energizing in the sense of I'm adding energy to myself. I'm just going back to enjoy that we have a really good reason we're doing all this. Okay? So what you're saying is that it's the bigger Kiddush Hashem, is that it reveals the reason behind all the actions on the 6 days. But it's not an action in and of itself. And that's how Malchus is different from the other 6 midos. The other 6, Malchus really isn't called a midah, usually. It's not something that you measure with. It's not something. It's not like, again, when you say measure, it's like a person working on a building and he's got measuring stick, and he's got different vessels with which he creates his bricks or whatever it is, and each one of these is useful for a few different things. But Malchus is not a vessel in that sense. It's not even a vessel. It's the projection. It's where you project everything that you've done. So, for instance, a lot of times Malchus is connected to time. Okay? You say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloch. So from that we learned that Malchus is related to time, the 3 tenses of time. So time is, you don't build time, okay? But you work within time. And it's some kind of, or a lot of times Malchus is space. Sorry?
You can get enslaved by time, never mind.
You're not enslaved by time ever. Where you're enslaved is by your mind. And you just you project that enslavement on time. Okay? It's your mind, it's your feeling that you have to do so and so that enslaves you. But it's not the passage of time itself. You can sit at home and time passes and you didn't do anything, and you don't have to feel. It depends on where you are in your mind space. So anyway, getting back to this, that now we said that for Avram to bring down this sechel hane'elam mikol harayon, this chafetz chesed, these abilities that were dormant, and we said, what does it mean? It means that nobody knew Hashem. Somebody asked me yesterday in another shir that he gave. Where did I give a shir yesterday? I gave a shir on psychology. So somebody asked whether the generations before Avraham had anxiety over the fact that they couldn't express Hashem in the world. I said, I think that yes, that the fact that Chanoch disappeared was, I think if I would write I'm sure there's a midrash like this, but if I would have to write one, I would say that it was out of mitzukah. It isn't mitzukah.
Out of fear of doing wrong. Hashem took him before.
Hashem took him before, but what was his feeling? Ve'inenu. It says ve'inenu. Even the whole verse is equal to 11 times ve'inenu. Ve'itelech Chanoch et Elokim. I can remember, there's 11 words in this pasuk, and it's equal to 11 times the last word, ve'inenu. So, what do you mean? He nullified it. Why did he nullify? Why did he, like, the Medrash says that he kept going up a mountain to be separate from the world. So in a certain sense he was trying to bring Hashem down. On the other hand, he gave up. It was just too impossible. He couldn't figure out. He didn't know what the secret was until Avram came along. And when Avram came along, the secret became revealed that you have to use the midos with which Hashem created the world. So what did Avram use? He used chesed, and then Yitzchak used gvura. But each one of them did act that brought Hashem down into it. That's what he's saying here. Okay. So now he's going into the siskaludus. He said that the main thing about these midos, it's not that nobody ever did chesed before Avram, but it wasn't rach kakaneh. It wasn't the midot of Hashem. It was like for a gain, for some kind of purpose. Or if you're not, loving kindness that's harsh is that if everybody else is not full of loving kindness, then I hate them. And Avram was the first person to have savlanut also. At the same time that he had a lot of chesed, he also had gvura, that he also forced people to say a bracha. He also had tiferet. I guess he had some way of making it feel like compassion, and not just as a handout, something else, and so on. So now he's going to explain this itkalalut. What does itkalalut mean? What does inter-inclusion mean? Love is called chesed in Kabbalah. I've loved you permanent, eternal love, therefore I've drawn you with chesed, loving kindness. So now, if each midah is inter-included with all the others, then we have to explain what it means to have chesed in chesed, gvura in chesed, tiferet in chesed, and so on. So chesed shebechesed היינו, אהבה נגלית מתוך האהבה המסותרת שבטבע נפש האדם. So chesed shebachesed says the first chesed is the minor one. It's chesed shebachesed. The second chesed is the major one. So the second you don't see it. So it's called ahavah mesuteret. It's like saying that I have ahavah mesuteret. So like I have a natural love. And that's what it is in the Tanya. That every person, every Jew has a natural love for Hashem. So chesed shebachesed, he says here, it's to reveal the natural love. It's the love that comes out of the natural love. וחסד שבחסד היינו האהבה נגלה מתוך האהבה המסודרת שבטבע נפש האדם. כמו אהבת האב לבנו, כשהיא מתגלית לעיני כל. דאגם שאין בה התחדשות, כי אהבתו טבעית היא ובתמידיות. ובזה הרי אין הפרש כלל בזמן, התקשרות האב והבן היא תמידית. ולכן כיבוד האב תמידי, דמכבדו בחייו בעלמדנו ובחייו הנצחיים. וכל זה הוא לפי שההתקשרות היא תמידית. This says, what does natural love of a father for a son mean? It means that it's always there, even if it's not being revealed at this moment. So that's ahavah mesuteret between father and son. What would chesed shebachesed be? That at times he shows his affection, he shows his love. So that's chesed shebachesed. And why is this possible? It's all because this love that he has, the natural love, is constant. It doesn't really ever leave him, but it's not always expressed. And therefore it also goes in the other direction, that the son is always required to honor his father, even if his father is not showing him his love at that moment. And not only is it constant in the sense of in this world, it's also constant in the world to come. The world of the neshamos. In the neshamos there's also an element of love of the father for the son. It's just that he can't remember it. And all the stories about people who went to Gan Eden and saw their parents, they didn't remember who they were. There's a story from the Baal Shem Tov like that also. There's stories like that. So I'll ask, what do you mean the connection between us is not eternal? He says, yes, it is eternal, but when you're not in this world, it's hard to express it. You don't find it. You don't remember. And it's also the same. It's also true if a parent doesn't see his child for many years and he's already an adult. It's not that it's gone. It just takes a lot of work now to bring it out. So all the more so when a person has no physical stimuli. He only has his spiritual stimuli, which is the Torah. If he can't darshan his son into the Torah, then he won't remember. It's like any muscle that you don't use a long time. So he doesn't remember even that he has a son to that point. So it's called la'ayir et ha'ava, la'ayir et ha'ava ha'yishana, that there's old love and it has to be brought back to the foreground. In any case, when you bring it out, when you're able to express it and see signs that this love exists, that's called chesed shebachesed. That's the hiskaludus, that's the inter-inclusion of loving kindness in loving kindness, or love in love. וגבורה שבחסד הוא קו שמאל שבמידה זו עצמה. והיינו שמעצמות המידה, דמידת החסד והאהבה, שמלובשת המידה דאהבה בדבר שהוא היפוכו. חסד שבחסד הוא התגלות אהבה בהקרוב לו. וגבורה שבחסד הוא התגלות אהבה דבר שהוא היפוכו, כמו לשנוא את מי ששונא לבנו או לא אהבו. So he says it's to hate the one that I love. That's the gvura of chesed. So it's chesed. It comes from the fact that I love my son. But the fact that I hate here is a big word, but that's what he uses. The fact that I hate somebody who hates him, it's because I love my son. So that's gvura shebachesed. That's the inter-inclusion of gvura into chesed.
Why are we only talking about chesed?
Because we're talking about Avram.
And gvura and tiferes. Why don't we ever talk about the other three middles?
We will. In a second, we will. And that's a chod yesod. We have to. If he doesn't say it, it's just because he didn't. He expects you to figure out yourself. The more he loves his son, the more he hates those who oppose him, his son. ותפארת שבחסד, וההתפארות הפנימי והיופי דמידת החסד וההשפעה. What is Tiferet Shebachesed? Tiferet, usually they explain this from the word yofi. Pe'er and yofi, they're very related. So it's to show beauty in the love, meaning that he shows his love, he expresses it in a beautiful way, in some kind of it could be that if it's a husband for his wife, that it's with something that's beautiful. ונצח שבחסד הוא ההשתדלות להתקרב אל דבר הטוב, וגם אם יהיו מניעות רבות מאוד ינצח את עצמו לעמוד נגד כל מונע המעכב ויגיע לטוב ולהתגברות כוח הניצחון. The netzach of chesed is that if a person really loves something and the love for it is ingrained in him, then he will vanquish, he will conquer and surmount any obstacles that he has on the way to being close to this thing. So that's netzach shebachesed. What is hod shebachesed? וללחום בעד בנו ואוהבו ולהצילו מאויביו. Hod is more than just gvura, because gvura is just to hate, it's just to feel. But hod and netzach are actions already. So here he actually fights. He writes an article against the guy who's bad mouthing his son, and writing terrible articles about him, whatever. Yesod shebachesed hu itkashut ha'ohev v'ne'ahav. Yesod is always itkashrut, is always a connection, like yesodot, zivug neshikin. The two people are close enough to actually touch each other. It's like the connection, a connection that could be speaking one to another, but usually it's like hugging or something like that. Umalchut shebachesed hu dibur ha'ohev im hanehav. And dibur and malchus of chesed would be to speak to one another, because malchus many times is speech. This you know from bidvar melech shilton, that the power of malchus is speech. Okay. V'nei pirtei midot elu yishnam gam ba'avodat Hashem. Just as these exist between people, they also exist in relation to Hashem, to serving Hashem. Dinei ktiv ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. Obviously we have a mitzvah to love Hashem. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך. You should love Hashem your God. והיינו גם לכל אחד ואחד מישראל הרי יש לו אהבה עצמית להשם. Even though each of us has an essential love to Hashem, מכל מקום אין זה מספיק עדיין. It's not enough. לפי שהאהבה זו היא אהבה מסותרת שהיא בהלם הנפש בכל אחד ואחד מישראל. Why? Because like the Tanya says, the natural love for Hashem is concealed in the heart. That a person, even though it'll never move, he'll have it his whole life, he can't express it naturally. He has to do work in order to express this love. So the work will now become exactly like we said in terms of the relationship between a father and a son. How? That במקום כה אין זה מספיק עדיין, לפי שהאהבה זו אהבה מסותרת שהיא בהלם הנפש כל אחד ואחד מישראל, ועל זה אומר, ואהבת, you should love, שתהיה בגילוי בנפשו, it has to be expressed, it has to be revealed, this love. והיינו שתהיה בהתגלות הלב. And התגלות הלב means an experience. It should be an experience of love. דאמיתת העבודה, דאהבה ויראה, הוא שיהיה בהתגלות דווקא. וזהו חסד שבחסד, שיעבד בכל נפשך, שיותר מבחינת העבד בכל לבבך. And that's why chesed shebachesed is what we call with all of your soul, which is more than with all of your heart. And the order is b'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol modecha. So b'chol levavcha is that you have a natural love in your heart, but it doesn't necessarily become revealed. It's not necessarily expressed. A lot of people walk around with the feeling that their lives are empty. When is life empty? Because they have nothing to love. But it's not true. You have
themselves.
What?
They love themselves.
No, that's not love. That's the most. If a person really loved himself, he would never copy anybody else. When you want to really give yourself a gift, what do? Said it. Why? Because only you can do that. Nobody else can sleep for you. Okay? People eat. Okay? But unfortunately, a lot of people, they go and they watch something, and then they say, "Oh, I wish I had this. I wish I had that." Okay? Don't worry about it. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. They're not thinking really about themselves. They don't really care about themselves. If they cared about themselves, they would ask, "What do I really want?" Not what is somebody else telling me I want. What do I really want? So to reveal my love for Hashem is really like asking, what do I really want? Because that's the driving force behind everything, that I have this hidden, concealed love for Hashem. And Hashem is all the goodness in the world. So when I say, what do I love? What am I attached to? What am I connected to? What moves me? That's really beginning to reveal my love for Hashem. Okay? But if a person like sits at home and he doesn't know that he knows. He has bookshelves full of books. And he doesn't take one down. He doesn't say, what do I want to learn now? He doesn't ask that question. So that's like the love remaining concealed. It's there. There's a life force there, but he doesn't use it. Instead,
he has the books there.
That's like the concealed love. Exactly, it's like he has concealed love in himself. Avam soteret. But until you open the book and you actually start learning, and you say, this is important to me, or you go do a mitzvah, you're not expressing your innate love for Hashem. And again, you have to replace Hashem always with something that works in the sentence. Because just to say I love God doesn't mean anything. Because nobody knows what God is. So you have to replace it with something that works. So the easiest thing is, I love goodness. So which goodness do you love? Do you love helping people? Do you love cooking for people? Do you love, I don't know, writing something that will help other people? What do you love? When you say you love, transform that love of what you do and understand that it can be a service of Hashem. So that's what it means, chesed shebechesed. That you don't leave it, I just love in general. No. I love something specific. To love with all your heart is to remain essentially unexpressed, dormant. What does nefesh mean? Nefesh means anima, that you're animated, you're doing something. That this love becomes the driving force behind all my powers of my soul. Even those that are not like love. For instance, we said even hate. The fact that I refrain from engaging with something that's forbidden, that's also love of Hashem. That's gvur shebechesed. Because I love Hashem, I love goodness, I will refrain from anything that causes the opposite. And so on. דעיקר אהבה היא בלב שהלב אוהב, ומכל מקום מתפשטת האהבה גם בשערי כוחות, אפילו כוחות חיצוניים. כמו אמת המים, what's the mashal for this? That there is a conduit of water. עוברת ממקום למקום שהולכת בלט. It goes quietly from place to place. ומוגבלת בגדותיים המגבילים אותה לפי שהמים הם במיעוט. And it's limited to traveling inside the conduit. אבל לפעמים, כאשר המים מתרבים ומתפשטים מגלותיהם, גם במקום שתמיד אין שם הילוך המים, כי אם בעת ריבוי המים, אז מתפשטים ביותר. Sometimes there's so much water, it overflows, so even the conduit, the water comes out of the vessels. So that's what it means, b'chol nafshecha, with all of the powers of your soul. That that you let the love flow out in such a way that it fills all the other powers of the soul. It's the difference between love with the heart alone, and the love is not overflowing in a sense that it will fill all the other powers of the soul. When you say בכל נפשך, with all of your soul, והתפשטות האהבה גם בשערי כוחות הנפש, גם בכוחות חיצוניים, כמו שירוץ לדבר מצווה. So for instance, it becomes that the person runs to do a mitzvah. שהאהבה מתפשטת גם בכוח ההילוך שברגל, that even his power of walking, which is in the feet, is now filled with love. וכן בשערי הכוחות, זהו חסד שבחסד. This is all what we call chesed of chesed in terms of love of Hashem. וגבורה שבחסד והשנאה לאויבי השם, שהם המנגדים לשם השם. And obviously, the gvura of chesed is to hate everything that's against Hashem. וכמו שכתוב, ולא משנאיך השם אשנא ויתקוממך יתקוטט. Like David says in Tehillim Kuf Lamed Tet. והיינו ששונא מאוד את המינים, מנגדי השם. Meaning that he hates very much the people who invent false religions, whose real purpose in the end is to serve themselves. ושונא אותם בתכלית השנאה, and he hates them to the very end. וכמו שכתוב, תכלית שנאה שנאתים לאויבים היו לי. דברש הרבה, אבן עזרא, שהם אויביי הפרטיים, וכועס עליהם מאוד, שאני לא יכול לנשוא אותם כלל וכלל. He can't tolerate them at all. That's from the place of his love. וכל שאהבה להשם היא בתוקף ביותר, הנה יותר תהיה שנאתו למנגדי השם. It's very interesting that the Friediger Rebbe was such a warm and inviting person, spends so many words, so many sentences on how much he has to hate the negative things that people do against Hashem. He never expressed it.
Right. Going back to you said that a child doesn't recognize his parents, so the parents don't recognize the child, and the child comes to Gan Eden.
Now, all the stories are usually that the person who went up was alive. And the person
connected with the outsider, all the age and parents, they no longer recognize the Geula, and maybe they do recognize them, but there's something broken down. I don't believe the people who are outside and people who sit with us all day long don't know what's going on. I'm sure they know exactly what's going on. But it's also they're locked up somehow.
So the problem always with these diseases is that the brain is not working right. The soul continues to work fine. When you go to Gan Eden, though, there's no brain anymore. So we're only talking about what the soul...
A brain in Gan Eden?
How could you have a brain in Gan Eden? The brain's a physical creation.
Where's the thought coming from?
You said the brain is a thinking vessel. Nobody's ever seen thinking in the brain. We see memories, we see other things, we've never seen thinking. The brain is like an antenna for something else that's happening. What's the brain? What do we say? We say the neshama is enclosed in the brain. So the brain is the vessel that can contain the type of spirituality called the neshama, the thinking part of the neshama. In the same way that the eye doesn't see.
The eye picks up the vision and brings it back to the brain.
So what would you call it? It's called an antenna. That's what you call it. Certainly in our way of thinking, where for us the body is passive. We don't see it the way they saw it. They saw the body as being active.
The whole story of the Magi. When they asked the Magi how come Moshe really got angry, he said that even the body itself has some power. So Moshe really got angry because of the body. So the body does have some power.
Of course it does. That's why you leave it at some point. Because you don't want to, because the soul itself wouldn't get angry. And the body has its shortcomings.
When you talk about the soul, yes, getting angry. Hating the people who hate themselves.
It's not unwarranted. In the case of Moshe Rabbeinu, it was improper. You shouldn't have gotten angry. And here, because they weren't people who hated Hashem, they were just thirsty, or whatever you want to say. And here it's talking about things that are warranted. So it says in the soul there is such a power to deflect, to push away whatever is against Hashem.
So, I was going to daven.
You're going to daven here?
I was going to daven. Yeah, I'm swimming.
Okay.
Come swimming sometime.